8-year-old Tommy Williams stood in the doorway of City Toys, his worn sneakers and patched jacket making him stick out among the holiday shoppers rushing past with their designer bags and expensive coffees. "We don't need your kind in here," the store manager snapped, pushing Tommy back onto the snowy sidewalk as he tried to explain about the birthday money clutched in his small fist. But what happened next would change not just Tommy's life, but an entire community's understanding of kindness and worth. Before we continue this heartbreaking story about prejudice and the power of unexpected kindness, if you believe that every child deserves to be treated with dignity and that true worth isn't measured by appearance, take a moment to subscribe to our channel. We bring you the most powerful stories that remind us what really matters in life. As Tommy wiped away his tears, a surprising voice called out from behind him. Someone who was about to teach that store manager an unforgettable lesson about judging a book by its cover and remind an entire town about the true meaning of community. Sarah Chen had been enjoying her morning coffee at the cafe across from City Toys when she witnessed the incident. At 68, the retired science teacher thought she'd seen every form of casual cruelty, but something about the small boy's dignity as he was pushed away made her heart crack. He didn't cry, didn't shout, just stood there clutching his money and trying to maintain his composure. 3 months, Sarah heard him whisper, staring down at the crumpled bills in his hand. 3 months of collecting cans and helping Mrs. Parker with her recycling. His voice carried the weight of dreams deferred, something Sarah had heard too often in her 35 years of teaching in the district's poorest schools. The other shoppers hurried past, some averting their eyes, others pretending not to notice. Sarah watched the boy smooth out his bills, 1s and 5s, carefully saved. Through the store window, she could see the manager watching smugly, as if proud of protecting his establishment from a child whose only crime was being poor. Tommy Williams. Sarah remembered him now. She'd substituted in his class last spring. Brilliant mind, especially in science, always asking questions, staying after class to learn more. His mother, Jennifer, worked 3 jobs, including early morning cleaning at the very cafe where Sarah now sat. The Deluxe chemistry set, Tommy had confided during one lunch break. The one with real experiments. I've been saving since summer. Sarah had seen him collecting cans in the park, helping elderly neighbors with their gardens. While other kids played, Tommy worked toward his dream. The manager's voice carried through the door as he spoke to another customer. "Have to maintain standards. Can't have just anyone wandering in." Sarah's coffee grew cold as she watched Tommy slowly back away from the store, his small shoulders squared against the December wind. She'd seen this before, children learning too early where society thought they belonged. During her teaching years, she'd fought against it, helping students believe in themselves despite the world's attempts to limit their dreams. Retirement hadn't changed her passion for justice. Setting down her coffee, Sarah gathered her coat and purse. 35 years of teaching had taught her that sometimes the most important lessons happened outside the classroom. As she stepped onto the sidewalk, she saw Tommy studying the store's window display, the deluxe chemistry set, prominently featured. "You know," she said, approaching him gently, "I remember when you explained the difference between chemical and physical. Changes to your whole class." Tommy looked up, recognition and embarrassment warring in his eyes. "Mrs. Chen, I was just leaving." But Sarah had seen enough. This wasn't just about a toy store or a chemistry set. This was about a child's worth being judged by his jacket, about barriers being built before potential could bloom. "Actually," she said, her voice carrying clearly, "we're both going in." The bell above the door chimed as they entered. The manager's face darkened. "I believe I made myself clear." But Sarah Chen hadn't faced down budget cuts and bureaucrats for 3 decades to be intimidated now. "Yes," she replied. "Smoothly, you made several things very clear. Other customers stopped browsing, sensing the tension. Sarah's voice remained calm but carried throughout the store. "You made it clear that you judge books by their covers, that you think worth is measured in designer labels, that you believe science and dreams belong only to certain children." Tommy stood straighter beside her, his birthday money still clutched tight. Sarah noticed other details now: his worn but carefully cleaned sneakers, the neat patches on, his jacket obviously sewn by loving hands, the spark of intelligence in his eyes that no amount of prejudice could dim. "This young man," Sarah continued, her teacher's voice drawing more attention, "can explain molecular structures better than most adults. He works harder than anyone I know to pursue his love of science. But you didn't bother to learn any of that, did you?" A woman with an expensive handbag set down her purchases. A man in a business suit stopped to listen. The manager's smugness began to falter. "We have certain standards," he began, but Sarah wasn't finished. "Standards?" she asked. "Let's talk about standards. Let's talk about a child who wakes up early to help elderly neighbors so he can earn money for a chemistry set. Let's talk about a mother who works 3 jobs to keep her son in good schools. Those are the standards that matter." Tommy's face showed surprise. He hadn't known Mrs. Chen knew so much about his life, but teachers, good teachers, always noticed, always cared, always fought for their students, even years after they'd left the classroom. Other voices joined in. "Now let the boy shop," someone called. "I want to see what he wants to buy," another added. The manager's face reddened as he realized his standards weren't as popular as he thought, especially not in a town still proud of its working class. "Roots?" Sarah placed a gentle hand on Tommy's shoulder. "Now," she said clearly, "this young scientist would like to purchase the deluxe chemistry set, the one he's worked 3 months to afford, and we'll be discussing your store's policies." With the corporate office, Tommy finally found his voice. "I have enough," he said softly, holding out his carefully saved money. "I counted 3 times, and I know about sales tax too." His quiet dignity in the face of prejudice spoke volumes about his character. The manager's world was shifting. Uncomfortably, other customers had phones out, recording. Sarah recognized a local reporter among them. Sometimes, she reflected, the best lessons about justice happened unexpectedly, in toy stores on snowy December mornings. Lisa Martinez, reporter for the local Gazette, had only stopped at City Toys to buy her niece's birthday present. Instead, she found herself recording what would become the most viral story of her career: the retired teacher's quiet dignity, the small boy's carefully counted money, the manager's obvious prejudice. It was like watching a microcosm of society's larger struggles play out in a toy store aisle. "This is going live," Lisa whispered to her cameraman, who had fortunately accompanied her on the shopping trip. The store manager's face paled as he noticed the professional camera. "Channel 5 News," Lisa announced clearly. "Would you care to explain your store's policy about turning away paying customers based on their appearance?" Sarah Chen recognized an ally. "Perhaps," she suggested calmly, "we should also discuss the educational implications of denying science resources to gifted students." Tommy stood quietly between them, his saved birthday money still clutched tightly, watching adults fight battles he'd already learned existed. Other customers had formed a protective circle. "I've seen this boy helping my mother with her recycling," one woman declared. "Such a polite child, so eager to learn." The manager's carefully constructed world of standards was crumbling under the weight of community truth. "3 jobs," Sarah continued, her teacher's voice carrying clearly for the camera. "His mother works 3 jobs to support his education. And you thought he wasn't good enough for your store?" Lisa's camera captured every word, every reaction, every shift in the growing crowd's mood. Tommy finally spoke up, his voice small but steady. "I researched the chemistry set," he explained. "It has real experiments, not just toys. I want to learn about molecular bonds and chemical reactions. His words, carrying such intelligence and passion, made the manager's prejudice seem even more glaring. The store's other employees had begun to distance themselves. "We've had problems with him before," one whispered to Lisa. "Last month he made a little girl cry because her clothes weren't fancy enough." The reporter nodded, knowing her story had just gained another dimension. Sarah's phone had started buzzing. Former colleagues, current teachers, parents she'd known for years. The video was already spreading through local social media. "Remember when they tried to cut the science program?" one text read. Sarah Chen fought. Then too, Tommy's science teacher, Mr. Rodriguez, arrived breathless. "I saw the video," he explained. "Tommy's top of my class. He turned in a project on renewable energy that could win state competitions. Lisa's camera captured it all. The community rallying around one of its own. The manager attempted damage control." "There's been a misunderstanding," he began, but the crowd wasn't having it. "The only misunderstanding," Sarah interrupted, "is thinking that worth is measured by wallet size rather than heart size." Lisa's live feed had caught the attention of national networks. "Stay with this," her editor texted. "This is going viral." The intersection of education, class prejudice, and a child's dreams of science had struck a chord far beyond their small town. Jennifer Williams, Tommy's mother, rushed in, still wearing her cafe uniform. "I saw the video at work," she explained, moving to protect her son. But she found him already protected, surrounded by teachers, neighbors, and strangers united in outrage at his treatment. "Mom," Tommy said softly, "I just wanted the chemistry set. The one we saw in the window last month." Jennifer's eyes filled with tears, remembering how they'd stood together, planning and calculating how long it would take to save enough. Sarah stepped forward. "Mrs. Williams," she said gently, "your son has become a symbol of something important. But he's also still just a boy who worked hard for his dream." The camera caught Jennifer's quiet strength, the same dignity her son had shown. The store's corporate office called the manager's phone. Lisa's microphone picked up fragments. "PR nightmare. Immediate action. Suspension pending investigation." The manager's face shifted from smugness to fear as his standards crumbled around him. Tommy's carefully saved money remained clutched in his hand. "I counted it 3 times, he repeated, as if that fact should have protected him from prejudice. Sarah's heart broke a little more. "Sometimes," she told the cameras, "the most expensive things in life are the moments we teach children they don't belong." Mr. Rodriguez had brought Tommy's renewable energy project. As he explained it to the growing crowd, their small-town toy store became an impromptu science fair. "See?" Sarah pointed out. "This is what happens when we nurture potential, instead of judging appearances." Jennifer stood straighter, her cafe uniform a badge of honor. "Now, 3 jobs," she said clearly for the cameras, "because I believe in my son's dreams. Because science doesn't care what clothes you wear or what car you drive." Lisa knew she had her story's heart. The chemistry set sat in its window display watching the drama unfold. Tommy's eyes kept returning to it, even as adults fought his battles. "I just want to learn," he whispered to Sarah. "Is that wrong?" Her answer was for the cameras as much as for him. "No, sweetheart. Wanting to learn is never wrong. Corporate representatives were already en route. Local business owners had begun arriving, drawn by the viral video. "This isn't just about one store," Sarah told Lisa's camera. "It's about every child who's ever been told they don't belong, every dream that's been dismissed because of appearances." As the morning turned to afternoon, Tommy's story continued spreading. Hashtags formed. "Art Science." "For all, their dignity, not designer. Stand with Tommy." His small town's toy store had become ground zero for a larger conversation about opportunity, education, and the true measure of worth. By evening, Tommy's story had exploded across social media. National news networks picked up Lisa's footage, his small-town struggle touching something deep in the national consciousness. Local boy denied chemistry, set becomes symbol of educational inequality, the headlines read. Clips of Tommy explaining his molecular science project played alongside the manager's dismissive treatment. 5 million views and climbing, Lisa reported from outside City Toys, where a crowd still lingered. But this isn't just about one incident. This is about countless children who face these barriers every day. Behind her, people had begun leaving signs. Science is for everyone and dreams don't check price tags. Sarah Chen's phone hadn't stopped ringing. Former students, fellow teachers, education advocates. Remember that budget fight in '92? One colleague texted, "Same battle, different battlefield." She sat with Tommy and Jennifer in the cafe where his mother worked, watching their small-town drama become a national conversation. "I don't understand," Tommy said quietly, still holding his saved money. "I just wanted to learn about chemistry." Jennifer wrapped her arm around him, her cafe uniform now a symbol in its own right. "Sometimes," Sarah explained gently, "one person's story helps others tell theirs." The store's corporate office had moved swiftly. The regional directors arrived full of apologies and PR speak. "This doesn't reflect our company values," she insisted to the cameras. But social media had already uncovered similar incidents at other locations. Tommy's experience wasn't unique, just finally visible. Mr. Rodriguez brought Tommy school records. Top scores in science and math, he showed the reporters. Self-taught molecular theory, he turned our recycling drive into a lesson on chemical decomposition. Tommy's intelligence and dedication shone through every example, making the store's rejection even more glaring. Local businesses began responding. The bookstore across street put up a sign, "All scientists welcome here." The cafe where Jennifer worked started a Dreams Fund for educational toys. "This community takes care of its own," Sarah told the cameras. Once we see what needs fixing, Jennifer's other employers stepped forward. "Most dedicated worker we've got," the grocery store owner declared. "Her son does his homework in our break room between her shifts." Tommy's careful saving of birthday money became a symbol of determination against odds. The chemistry set still sat in the window display. "Might as well be behind glass at a museum," one commentator noted, showing exactly what some people think poor kids deserve to look at but never touch. Sarah's decades of fighting similar battles gave her words extra weight. In every interview, Tommy's classmates rallied around him. They shared stories of his helping them with science homework, explaining complex concepts in simple terms. "He taught me about atoms using lunch items," one friend told reporters. "Made it make sense for the first time." Corporate damage control shifted into high gear. Full investigation and policy review became buzzwords. But Sarah recognized the patterns. "We need systemic change," she insisted in every interview, not just corporate band-aids. Her experience fighting educational inequality gave her arguments solid ground. Lisa's follow-up stories dug deeper. Other families came forward with similar experiences, not just at toy stores, but at clothing shops, restaurants, school events. Tommy's dignity in the face of rejection had opened a floodgate of shared pain and determination for change. Jennifer found unexpected support at work. Customers left larger tips, asked about Tommy's interests. "It's not about charity," she explained firmly. "It's about opportunity, about letting children dream beyond the boxes society puts them in." Her quiet strength echoed her son's. Social media amplified every aspect. Tommy's renewable energy project went viral. Science educators praised his understanding of complex concepts. Offers of mentorship and educational support poured in. But he shouldn't have needed viral fame to be treated with dignity. Sarah pointed out the regional director tried meeting with Tommy and Jennifer. "We'd like to gift him the chemistry set," she offered, but Jennifer straightened in her cafe uniform. "My son earned this," she said firmly. "He worked for it, saved for it. He deserves to buy it himself, with dignity." Mr. Rodriguez organized an impromptu science fair in the cafe. Tommy demonstrated chemical reactions using kitchen ingredients. Other students joined in, showing that passion for learning knew no economic boundaries. "This is what we're fighting for," Sarah told observers. "The right to nurture potential wherever we find it." Local officials began examining policies, not just at stores, but in schools, community programs, everywhere assumptions about worth were based on appearance. "Tommy showed us our blind spots," the mayor admitted. "Now, we have to decide what we'll do about them." The chemistry set became more than just a toy. It represented barriers, dreams, determination, but also hope, Sarah reminded everyone. Because today, people are finally paying attention, finally seeing what some children face just trying to learn. Jennifer's 3 jobs became part of the narrative. Working hard isn't enough, commentators noted. We have to dismantle the prejudices that make some paths harder than others. Tommy's carefully saved birthday money symbolized both dedication and injustice. As night fell, Tommy and his mother finally headed home. Sarah watched them walk away, still processing the day's events. "Sometimes," she told Lisa in a final interview, "it takes a child's simple dream to show us how complicated we've made justice." The chemistry set waited in its window, now spotlighted by camera crews representing everything wrong and everything possible in their small town's struggle for change. The next morning, Tommy's middle school science classroom became an unexpected media center. Mr. Rodriguez had invited reporters to see what the store manager had missed, a gifted young scientist whose passion transcended his circumstances. "Watch this," he said proudly, as Tommy demonstrated his renewable energy project to the cameras. "See, when we combine solar and wind power," Tommy explained, his earlier shyness forgotten as he discussed science, "we can create a more stable energy supply." His homemade windmill, crafted from recycled materials, powered a small LED display. "I used parts from old computers Mrs. Parker was throwing away," he added. Sarah Chen, watching from the doorway, saw what she'd always known: brilliance. Didn't check bank accounts. Jennifer had taken a rare morning off from her cafe job to attend. Watching her son explain complex theories, her exhaustion from multiple jobs faded. "He teaches himself," she told reporters quietly, "stays up late reading science websites on our neighbor's shared Wi-Fi, draws molecular structures instead of comic books." Lisa Martinez focused her camera on Tommy's notebook. Pages of careful diagrams, complex equations, and detailed experiments filled every space. "I write small," he explained, "to make the notebook last longer." That simple statement sparked another wave of social media commentary about educational access and opportunity. Mr. Rodriguez shared Tommy's test scores. "Highest in the district," he revealed. "But look at his project proposals. Plans for water purification systems, solar-powered phone chargers, biodegradable plastics, all designed with recycled materials, all showing remarkable understanding of scientific principles." "This is why the chemistry set matters," Sarah explained to the cameras. "It's not just a toy, it's a tool for a mind already pushing beyond its circumstances." She showed them Tommy's detailed plans for the experiments he hoped to conduct, each one carefully researched and annotated. Other teachers came forward. "He helps younger students understand science," his math teacher reported. "Breaks down complex ideas into simple explanations." Clips of Tommy tutoring classmates during lunch breaks circulated online, further challenging stereotypes about ability and opportunity. The store's corporate office sent representatives to the school. Watching Tommy demonstrate chemical reactions using household items, their prepared PR statements felt increasingly hollow. We don't just need policy changes, Sarah pointed out. We need perspective changes. Jennifer shared stories of Tommy's early fascination with science. He was 4 when he started asking about why soap makes bubbles, she recalled. 6 when he figured out how to make a simple battery from lemons. Her voice carried pride untouched by their economic struggles. Local businesses continued responding. The hardware store offered free supplies for science projects. The library extended its hours so students could use computers for research. Tommy's situation opened our eyes, the librarian admitted, to barriers we didn't realize we were creating. Tommy's renewable energy project caught the attention of university researchers. His understanding of sustainable systems is remarkable, one professor commented, especially considering his limited resources. Sarah watched her former student explain his theories to PhD candidates, his enthusiasm bridging any social gaps. The chemistry set remained in its window display, but its meaning had shifted. It's become a symbol, Lisa reported, of artificial barriers between children and education. Social media dubbed it Tommy's set, with supporters offering to buy chemistry sets for other aspiring scientists. Jennifer firmly declined these offers. "My son teaches us about dignity," she told reporters, "about earning what you dream of." Tommy continued saving his recycling money, now helped by classmates who brought him cans and bottles. "We're funding science," they declared proudly. Mr. Rodriguez organized an after-school science club. Tommy's first presentation on molecular bonds drew students from every grade level. "He makes it interesting," one 8th grader admitted. "Shows us how it matters in real life." The classroom became a place where economic differences disappeared in shared curiosity. Sarah worked with local educators to identify other hidden talents. "Tommy's not alone," she insisted. "There are brilliant minds in every neighborhood just waiting for opportunity." Her decades of teaching experience gave weight to her calls for systematic change. The cafe, where Jennifer worked, became an unexpected science hub. Tommy set up simple experiments during his homework time, drawing curious customers into discussions of chemistry and physics. "He turned our coffee counter into a laboratory," the owner marveled, "making everyone learn something new." Corporate representatives watched Tommy explain catalysts and reactions, using coffee creamer and sugar packets, Lisa noted in her coverage. While the chemistry set he earned sits behind glass. The contrast sparked another round of social media commentary about access and opportunity. Jennifer's multiple jobs became part of a larger discussion about educational equity. "Some parents can buy opportunities," Sarah pointed out. "Others work themselves exhausted just to give their children a chance." Tommy's careful saving of birthday money represented both determination and systemic inequality. Local officials began examining school funding. "If we have students like Tommy," the superintendent acknowledged, "we need to invest in their potential." Discussions of enhanced science programs and accessible equipment-filled board meetings, sparked by one boy's desire to learn. As another day of media coverage ended, Tommy returned to his usual spot in the cafe's corner. Homework spread out, recycling money carefully counted, determination unchanged by his viral fame. "I just want to understand how things work," he told Sarah. "How to make them better." His simple dream, she realized, was changing their communities' understanding of worth, opportunity, and justice. City Toys' corporate headquarters faced a mounting crisis. Their initial response of suspending the store manager had failed to quiet public outrage. As Tommy's story spread, similar incidents emerged from stores across the country. "It's not just about one chemistry set anymore," Lisa Martinez reported. "It's about systemic discrimination hidden behind words like store policy and customer standards." Sarah Chen sat in yet another emergency meeting, this time with the company's national director of operations. "You're missing the point," she explained patiently. "Gifting Tommy the chemistry set won't fix this. You need to address why any child would be judged by their clothes rather than their dreams." Her words, captured by Lisa's camera, sparked another viral moment. Jennifer Williams testified before the city council, still wearing her cafe uniform between shifts. "My son collects cans to learn about science," she said quietly. "While some children have entire labs bought for them, what message are we sending about who deserves knowledge?" The chamber fell silent, her simple truth more powerful than any prepared speech. Tommy's renewable energy project had caught national attention. Universities offered summer program scholarships. Science magazines requested interviews. "But first," he insisted, "I need to understand basic chemistry." His focus remained on the fundamental knowledge the chemistry set would provide, uncorrupted by sudden fame. The store's corporate team arrived with a comprehensive plan. Policy overhaul, sensitivity training, community outreach, they listed. But Sarah interrupted. "Show me where it addresses the belief system that led to this. The assumption that worth correlates with wealth." Her decades in education had taught her the difference between real change and public relations. Local businesses formed a coalition. "No child turned away" signs appeared in windows across town. The bookstore started a science section specifically stocked with books at various price points. "Tommy taught us to examine our own biases," the owner admitted. "What invisible barriers we might be creating." Mr. Rodriguez expanded his science club. Students from all economic backgrounds worked together on projects, sharing resources and knowledge. "Tommy's approach," he explained to education reporters, "shows us that innovation doesn't require expensive equipment. It requires curiosity and determination." The chemistry set remained in the window, now surrounded by news cameras. "Leave it there," Sarah suggested. "Let it remind everyone what we're really fighting for." The display had become a symbol, drawing protesters with signs reading, "Science has no income requirement," and "Knowledge is a right, not a privilege." Corporate executives watched footage of Tommy explaining molecular theory to his classmates. Using sugar packets, coffee stirrers, and paper clips, he made complex concepts accessible. "This is the mind your store rejected," Sarah pointed out. "What other brilliant minds have been turned away?" Jennifer's 3 jobs became part of the national conversation about educational access. "We talk about STEM education," one commentator noted, "but what about the children whose parents work multiple jobs just to give them a chance at basic resources?" Tommy's careful saving of recycling money highlighted larger systemic issues. The store manager's past incidents surfaced. Other families came forward with similar stories of discrimination. "It's not just about toys," Sarah explained in another viral interview. "It's about who we tell belongs in the world of science, of learning, of achievement." Her words resonated with educators nationwide. Tommy's classmates organized their own protest. They arrived at City Toys wearing clothes from thrift stores, carrying carefully saved money. "We all want to learn," their spokesperson announced. "Why does it matter what we're wearing when we walk through your door?" Their solidarity touched something deep in the community's conscience. Local tech companies began reaching out, offering internships, mentoring programs, resources. "But we had to wait for a viral video," Sarah challenged them. "How many Tommies have we missed because we judge books by their covers?" Her questions sparked discussions about corporate responsibility in educational equity. The cafe where Jennifer worked became a symbol of its own. Customers watched Tommy conduct simple experiments between homework assignments, saw his mother's quiet dignity as she served coffee between viral interviews. "This is America," Lisa's coverage noted. Brilliant minds working multiple jobs to give their children a chance. City Toys stock prices reflected the crisis. Shareholders demanded action beyond PR statements. "Show us real change," they insisted. Watching Tommy demonstrate chemical reactions using kitchen supplies, corporate leaders began to understand the depth of their failure. Sarah organized a community education forum, teachers, parents, business owners gathering to discuss hidden barriers. Tommy's story is just the visible tip, she explained. Beneath it lie countless children facing similar obstacles. Her experience gave weight to calls for systematic change. Jennifer stood firm against corporate attempts at quick fixes. "My son earned this," she repeated. "He taught himself molecular theory without fancy equipment. Imagine what he could do with real tools." Her quiet strength resonated with parents nationwide facing similar struggles. The City Council proposed new anti-discrimination ordinances. "No child should be judged by their appearance," the mayor declared. Tommy listened from the audience, still focused on his goal of learning chemistry, his determination unchanged by the movement he'd inadvertently sparked. As evening fell, Tommy sat in his usual corner of the cafe, working on science homework. "Mom," he said as Jennifer refilled coffee cups nearby, "did you know that caffeine is a crystalline compound?" His simple joy in knowledge, unchanged by viral fame, reminded everyone what really mattered. Sarah watched him sketch molecular structures on a napkin, teaching younger children about chemical bonds. "Sometimes," she told the lingering reporters, "it takes a child's pure love of learning to show us how far we've strayed from what really matters." Outside, the chemistry set waited in its window, a symbol of both barriers and possibilities. The first real change came from an unexpected source. The city's largest employer, tech giant Innovatech, announced a complete overhaul of their community engagement program. "Tommy Williams showed us what we've been missing," their CEO declared at a press conference. "Brilliance doesn't wait for opportunity, but too often, opportunity fails to recognize brilliance." Sarah Chen watched the announcement from Tommy's after-school science club, where he was teaching younger students about chemical reactions using kitchen ingredients. "See how the vinegar changes the baking soda structure?" he explained, his eyes lighting up as bubbles formed. "That's what a catalyst does." His simple joy in sharing knowledge remained untouched by the movement he'd inspired. Jennifer sat in the back of the classroom between shifts, still in her cafe uniform. Watching her son teach, she remembered his first science experiments in their tiny kitchen. "He used to ask why soap bubbles were rainbow-colored," she told Lisa Martinez. "Stayed up late reading library books about light refraction." But here's the real story," Lisa reported, camera focused on Tommy's improvised demonstration. While corporations debate policy changes, this 8-year-old scientist continues teaching others with whatever materials he can find. The contrast between corporate promises and Tommy's immediate action sparked another wave of social media response. Mr. Rodriguez had transformed his classroom into an accessible science center. Salvaged equipment, donated supplies, and creative solutions filled the space. "Tommy taught us that innovation doesn't require expensive tools," he explained. "It requires innovative thinking about the tools we have." The chemistry set remained in City Toys' window, but its meaning had evolved. "It's become a milestone," Sarah observed, marking the difference between what was and what could be. Other stores across the country reported similar displays, each sparking local conversations about access and opportunity. Innovatech's announcement included specific changes: STEM education funds for underserved communities, mentorship programs, equipment donations. "But Tommy's already showing us how to start," their education director admitted. "Sometimes the best teaching happens with vinegar and baking soda." Jennifer's Cafe became an unofficial science center. Customers watched Tommy turn coffee creamer into lessons about cloud formation, sugar packets into molecular structure demonstrations. "He finds science everywhere," the owner said proudly. "Makes everyone want to learn." Local businesses continued evolving. The hardware store started Inventors' Hours, where children could experiment with basic materials. The bookstore created study spaces with free Wi-Fi. Tommy showed us that support can be simple, they explained. It's about removing barriers, not building fancy programs. Sarah worked with community leaders to formalize changes. We need to ensure this outlasts the viral moment, she insisted, that future Tommies don't need viral videos to access opportunity. Her experience fighting for educational equity guided the development of sustainable programs. The City Council passed new regulations, requiring stores to post clear, fair customer policies, prohibiting discrimination based on appearance. But laws don't change hearts, Sarah reminded them. That happens through stories like Tommy's, through seeing potential in unexpected places. Tommy's Science Club grew. Children from all backgrounds brought recycled materials, shared resources, learned together. He makes it fun, one student explained, shows us how everything around us is really science in action. The classroom became a model of educational equity in practice. Corporate representatives visited again, this time to learn, rather than manage PR. They watched Tommy demonstrate electromagnetic principles using paper clips and borrowed batteries. We've been thinking about education backward, one admitted, starting with fancy equipment instead of fostering curiosity. Jennifer's multiple jobs became part of a larger conversation. Local businesses began examining their wage policies, scheduling practices. No parent should work 3 jobs to give their child basic educational tools, the Chamber of Commerce president acknowledged. Tommy's story showed us our community's gaps. The viral video had evolved into a movement, Trigi Science, For All, and Itrinkres, Tommy's Lab, trending as communities nationwide examined their own barriers to education. But real change happens locally, Sarah reminded reporters. In classrooms, stores, and communities choosing to see potential in every child. Mr. Rodriguez documented Tommy's teaching methods. He naturally understands how to make complex ideas accessible, the veteran teacher observed, uses everyday examples, builds on familiar concepts. Educational experts studied the 8th grader teaching physics with playground demonstrations. Innovatex programs rolled out slowly, thoughtfully. We're following Tommy's example, their community director explained, starting with basics, needs, building understanding, creating foundation. Their first initiative, providing simple science equipment to schools across the district. The cafe's corner table became Tommy's trademark spot. Homework spread out, recycling money carefully counted, always ready to explain science to anyone who asked. He turns coffee breaks into science lessons, Jennifer said proudly, helps people remember the joy of learning. Sarah watched it all with measured hope. Systemic change takes time, she reminded impatient advocates. But Tommy shows us where to start, with respect, with opportunity, with believing in potential, wherever we find it. Her words guided the community's evolving response. As another day ended, Tommy packed up his makeshift lab materials. "Mom," he asked Jennifer as she finished her shift, "did you know that the steam from coffee cups demonstrates 3 states of matter?" His endless curiosity, unchanged by fame or corporate attention, reminded everyone why this fight mattered. 3 weeks after the viral video, another child walked into City Toys. Her shoes were worn, her coat secondhand, but her eyes held the same determination Tommy's had. "I saved my money," she told the new manager, placing carefully counted bills on the counter. "I want to learn about electricity." Maria Santos, age 9, became the face of what Tommy's story had started. Sarah Chen watched from her usual spot in the cafe as word spread. "It's happening," she told Lisa Martinez. "Children who would have stayed invisible are finding their voice." Across town, Tommy was teaching his expanding science club, unaware that his courage had sparked a chain reaction of change. "Look what Maria brought to class today," Mr. Rodriguez announced, holding up a basic circuit kit. "She's going to show us how parallel circuits work." The young girl's proud smile as she demonstrated her new knowledge reminded everyone of Tommy's first chemistry lessons with household items. Jennifer recognized herself in Maria's mother. The same tired eyes from multiple jobs, the same fierce pride in her child's achievements. "She works at the laundromat," Jennifer told Sarah. "Says her daughter takes apart old appliances to understand how they work." Another hidden scientist finding her way, Tommy welcomed Maria to his lunchtime study group. "I'll show you how to make a battery from lemons," he offered. Watching them work together, Sarah saw the future she'd fought for throughout her teaching career. Children teaching children, curiosity unlimited by circumstance, the new store manager had learned from past mistakes. "We have a responsibility," she explained to corporate observers, "not just to sell toys, but to nurture potential." She'd created a young scientist's corner where children could experiment with display items regardless of their ability to purchase. Innovatech's programs began showing results. Simple science kits distributed to schools, mentorship programs connecting children with scientists. But Tommy's peer teaching model works best, Mr. Rodriguez noted. They relate to someone who speaks their language, who understands their challenges. Maria's circuit demonstrations drew attention. "She explains electricity better than my physics teacher," one eighth grader admitted. Like Tommy, she had taught herself from library books and internet videos, finding ways around financial barriers. Her knowledge challenged more stereotypes. The cafe's science corner expanded. Tommy and Maria set up regular demonstration times between homework sessions. "Did you know electricity and chemistry are connected?" they explained to curious customers. Jennifer and Maria's mother watched their children bloom, their own exhaustion forgotten. Sarah documented the changes. "It's not just about access to equipment," she told education researchers. "It's about creating spaces where curiosity is welcomed, where questions are encouraged, where potential isn't judged by packaging." Her words became part of new teaching guidelines. Local media followed the story's evolution. From one chemistry set to a community transformation, Lisa reported, cameras captured Tommy and Maria, helping younger children understand scientific principles using everyday objects, their makeshift labs proving that passion transcends resources. The chemistry set that started it all had company now. Circuit kits, microscopes, geology sets, all displayed with signs reading, "Future Scientists Welcome." But the real change, Sarah observed, is in how we see the children who walk through that door. Corporate policies continued evolving, not just at City Toys, but across retail chains. "We're learning to recognize potential in all its forms," one executive admitted. Watching Tommy and Maria teach basic physics using coffee stirrers and sugar packets had opened many eyes. Jennifer and Maria's mother formed a parent support group, sharing resources, trading work shifts so our children can attend science events, they explained. Their determination to nurture their children's talents inspired other parents facing similar challenges. Mr. Rodriguez's classroom became a model for accessible science education. Salvaged equipment, donated supplies, and creative teaching methods drew observers from other districts. "Tommy showed us the way," he explained. "Now Maria and others are proving it wasn't a one-time miracle." Innovatech executives visited the Cafe Science Corner. Watching children from all backgrounds learn together, they saw their expensive programs humbled by the effectiveness of peer teaching. Sometimes the best innovation is simply removing barriers. Their education's director acknowledged, Maria's circuit kit sparked another wave of change. Local electricians offered apprenticeship programs, tech companies donated basic equipment. But it started with her saved money, Sarah reminded them, with her right to walk into a store and be seen as a future scientist. Tommy's original, viral moment had evolved. It's not about shame or blame anymore, Lisa reported. It's about community transformation, about recognizing brilliance doesn't wait for perfect conditions. Footage of his and Maria's teaching sessions demonstrated this truth daily. The cafe owner installed better lighting over the science corner. "Best investment I ever made," he declared, watching young minds discover scientific principles. Between coffee orders had changed his understanding of community space. Other businesses followed suit, creating learning-friendly zones. As another day ended, Tommy and Maria packed up their makeshift lab. "Tomorrow we'll show them how magnetism works," they planned. Their excitement about sharing knowledge, their determination to help others learn, proved that the true catalyst for change had been a child's simple desire to understand the world. 1 month after Tommy's viral moment, the City Council called a special session. The agenda: Ensuring Educational Equity, the William Santos Initiative. Tommy and Maria sat in the front row, their shared notebook open to sketches of their latest science demonstrations. Behind them, a community packed the chamber, ready to transform temporary changes into lasting policy. "We've seen what happens when we remove barriers," Sarah Chen testified, gesturing to the young scientists. "These children aren't just learning, they're teaching us how to build a better educational system." She presented data from the UI past month: increased science engagement, improved test scores, growing community involvement. Jennifer and Mrs. Santos took their turns at the podium, still in their work uniforms. "Our children shouldn't need viral videos to access education," Jennifer stated firmly. "Every Tommy and Maria deserves to be seen, to be supported, to be given a chance." Their words carried the weight of personal experience, Mr. Rodriguez. Shared classroom data. "Peer teaching has revolutionized how we approach science education," he explained. "When Tommy shows younger students how to understand molecular structure using coffee creamer, he's not just teaching chemistry, he's showing them that science belongs to everyone." The City Toys' new manager presented their transformed policies. "We've created exploration stations in every store," she reported, "where children can experiment with educational toys regardless of their ability to purchase." Tommy and Maria exchanged proud glances. Their corner of the cafe had inspired this change. Innovatech's CEO announced expanded initiatives. "Watching these young scientists teach others with household items challenged our assumptions," he admitted. "We're redesigning our education outreach based on their example, starting with curiosity, not expensive equipment." Local business owners described their adaptations. The hardware store's inventors' hours had become weekly events. The bookstore's study spaces were filled with young minds. The cafe's science corner had inspired similar spaces across town. "Tommy and Maria showed us that every space can be a classroom," they explained. Sarah outlined the proposed changes: mandatory anti-discrimination training for retail staff, educational access guidelines, support for peer teaching programs. But most importantly, she emphasized, we're changing how we see potential. Tommy demonstrated this by helping Maria explain electromagnetic fields to the council members. Lisa Martinez's cameras captured it all. "From viral outrage to systemic change," she reported, "these children turned a moment of discrimination into a movement for educational equity." Footage showed Tommy and Maria's growing network of young scientists, learning and teaching in spaces that had once excluded them. Jennifer watched her son sketch molecular structures for younger children. "He doesn't just teach science," she told the council. "He teaches dignity, perseverance, the right to dream." Beside her, Mrs. Santos nodded, both mothers' exhaustion now carrying purpose beyond survival. The Chamber of Commerce presented new guidelines: family-friendly scheduling for working parents, educational support programs, community learning spaces. "We're investing in our future," they declared, watching Tommy and Maria demonstrate basic physics using rubber bands and paper clips. Mr. Rodriguez's classroom methods became official policy. Accessible science education featuring peer teaching, everyday materials, and community involvement. These children proved that innovation doesn't require expensive labs, he explained. It requires removing artificial barriers. Corporate representatives studied the Cafe Science Corner, Tommy and Maria's simple demonstrations drawing crowds of eager learners. "We overcomplicated things," one executive admitted, while they showed us that science lives in sugar packets and coffee stirrers. The proposed William Santos initiative included funding for community science programs. But following Tommy and Maria's model, Sarah insisted, building on curiosity, creativity, and peer support. The young teachers continued their demonstrations, unaware they were reshaping educational policy local universities offered. Support? "We want to nurture this grassroots science movement," their outreach coordinators explained. Watching children teach children, they saw the future of STEM education. Tommy and Maria's methods becoming case studies in educational effectiveness, Jennifer and Mrs. Santos's Parent Support Network received official recognition, resources, scheduling assistance, educational advocacy training. "We're creating a system that supports family learning," they explained, their determination to nurture their children's talents inspiring institutional change. The City Toys incident had evolved into a template for community transformation. "It's not just about access to toys," Sarah reminded the council. "It's about recognizing and nurturing potential wherever we find it." Tommy and Maria proved her point, teaching advanced concepts with simple tools as the council prepared to vote. Tommy and Maria demonstrated one more experiment. Using materials from their pockets, they showed how chemical reactions work. "Science is everywhere," they explained. "We just need the chance to explore it." Their simple demonstration said more than hours of testimony. The William Santos initiative passed unanimously. But the real work continues in places like this, Sarah observed, watching Tommy and Maria pack up their makeshift lab. In children teaching children, in communities removing barriers, in recognizing that brilliance blooms wherever we let it. As evening fell, the young scientists returned to their cafe corner. Tomorrow we'll show them how light waves work. They planned already adapting coffee shop supplies into physics demonstrations, their enthusiasm unchanged by policy meetings, their love of learning and teaching remaining pure. The National Education Conference had never seen presenters quite like Tommy and Maria. Standing before a room of educators and policymakers, the young scientists demonstrated how to teach advanced concepts using everyday materials. "Look, how sugar crystals form," Tommy explained, while Maria added, "It's like building blocks of sweetness, but it's really chemistry in action." Sarah Chen watched from the sidelines as her former student and his teaching partner captivated the audience. "This is what we've been missing," she told the assembled experts. "While we debated expensive STEM programs, these children showed us that science education can start with coffee stirrers and curiosity." Jennifer and Mrs. Santos sat in the front row, having arranged their work schedules to attend. Watching their children confidently address educational leaders, they saw the fruit of their endless sacrifices. "They're not just teaching science," Jennifer whispered. "They're teaching hope." The William Santos model is spreading, Lisa Martinez reported. Her cameras captured similar initiatives starting in cities across the country. Children teaching children, communities removing barriers, businesses creating learning spaces. The movement that started with a rejected chemistry set had gained national momentum. Mr. Rodriguez presented data from his transformed classroom. "Test scores are up, but more importantly, engagement has soared," he explained. "When children see themselves as capable of teaching others, they develop a deeper understanding of the material." Footage of Tommy and Maria's peer teaching sessions proved his point. Corporate leaders studied the success. "We spent millions on STEM initiatives," one CEO admitted. "While these kids showed us that effective education can start with household items and passionate teaching." Innovitech's accessible science program, based on Tommy and Maria's methods, had become a national model. The Cafe Science Corner had inspired similar spaces nationwide. "Every business can be a classroom," the National Chamber of Commerce declared. Pictures showed children teaching chemistry in diners, physics in hardware stores, biology in grocery aisles. Tommy and Maria's approach spreading organically. Sarah addressed concerns about standardization. "The beauty of this model is its flexibility," she explained. "It adapts to any community, any resource level, because it starts with what's available." Tommy demonstrated by turning his water bottle into a lesson about refraction. Universities had begun studying the peer teaching phenomenon. These children instinctively use methods that educational theorists have advocated for years. Researchers noted, watching Maria explain electrical circuits using paper clips and batteries, they saw complexity made accessible through natural teaching talent. Jennifer and Mrs. Santos found themselves leading workshops for other working parents. "Support networks are crucial," they explained, "sharing resources, trading shifts, creating spaces where our children can learn and teach." Their grassroots approach to educational support inspiring similar programs nationwide. The original City Toys had become a pilot site for inclusive retail practices. "Every store can be a learning space," the new manager told corporate trainers. "It's about creating environments where curiosity is welcomed, where potential isn't judged by purchasing power." Tommy and Maria's initial demonstrations had evolved into regular educational events. Mr. Rodriguez's classroom hosted educators from across the country. "Watch how they make it accessible," he encouraged. Tommy explained molecular bonds using salt and pepper shakers, while Maria demonstrated energy conversion with rubber bands. Their simple, effective methods challenging traditional teaching approaches, the William Santos Initiative, had caught the attention of national policymakers. "We're seeing how community-based education can transform STEM learning." Education officials observed. Tommy and Maria continued their demonstrations, uninterested in policy implications, focused purely on sharing their love of science. Local businesses reported unexpected benefits. "These learning spaces create community," store owners explained. "People stay longer, engage more, connect through shared curiosity." The cafe's Science Corner had become a model for combining commerce with education, proving that accessibility could benefit everyone. Sarah worked with educational publishers. "We're developing guides based on Tommy and Maria's methods," she explained, showing how everyday materials can teach advanced concepts. The young scientists contributed ideas, their practical experience, informing formal curriculum development. Jennifer watched her son explain chemical reactions to a group of educators. "Remember when he first wanted that chemistry set?" she asked Sarah. "Now he's teaching teachers." Beside her, Mrs. Santos nodded proudly as Maria demonstrated electrical conductivity using kitchen foil. The conference culminated in a special demonstration. Tommy and Maria teaching hundreds of educators how to create accessible science lessons. "Everything around us is science," they explained. "We just have to learn to see it, to share it, to make it belong to everyone." Corporate representatives announced new initiatives. "Following the William Santos model of accessible education," they explained. But Tommy and Maria were already focused on their next demonstration, planning how to show sound waves using rubber bands and empty containers. As the day ended, the young scientists returned to their familiar cafe corner. "Tomorrow we'll figure out how to show photosynthesis," they planned, surrounded by simple materials that, in their hands, became tools of discovery. Their pure love of learning and teaching remaining the heart of a movement that had grown beyond anyone's expectations. 6 months after Tommy's confrontation at City Toys, the small town gathered for a special celebration. The opening of the William Santos Science Center, a converted warehouse where children from all backgrounds could explore, learn, and teach. But the best part, Tommy explained to reporters, is that everything here uses regular stuff we can find at home. Maria demonstrated their philosophy by turning a paper cup, string, and paper clips into a lesson about sound waves. See, she explained to younger children gathered around her. Science isn't about expensive equipment. It's about understanding how things work. Sarah Chen watched proudly as her vision of accessible education took physical form. Jennifer and Mrs. Santos cut the ribbon together, still in their work uniforms. From a rejected chemistry set to this, Jennifer marveled. The center's main room featured learning stations designed by Tommy and Maria, each showing how everyday materials could teach advanced concepts. Their original Cafe Science Corner, recreated as a model for others. What makes this different, Lisa Martinez reported, is that it's not just a science center, it's a teaching center. Cameras captured children teaching other children, sharing discoveries, building on each other's ideas. The William Santos model of peer education now had a permanent home. Mr. Rodriguez had helped design the educational programs. We built it around Tommy and Maria's methods, he explained, making complex concepts accessible through familiar objects. Watching them teach molecular structure using salt shakers and pepper, he saw how simplicity could unlock understanding. Corporate sponsors had learned valuable lessons. We originally offered high-tech equipment, Innovatech's CEO admitted. But Tommy and Maria showed us that innovation starts with imagination, not expensive tools. The center's supply room stored everyday items instead of costly lab equipment. The cafe's original Science Corner had inspired a special section. Where it all began, read the plaque. Tommy and Maria still held regular sessions there, proving that informal spaces could spark serious learning. Sometimes the best classrooms don't look like classrooms, Sarah observed. Jennifer's parent support network had its own space, where families share resources, trade childcare, plan educational opportunities, she explained, watching working. Parents coordinate schedules to ensure their children could attend science sessions. She saw community in action. Maria's circuit demonstrations had evolved into a popular workshop. Electricity is everywhere, she taught. We just need to understand how to work with it safely. Her simple explanations of complex principles drew praise from professional educators studying the center's methods. Local businesses contributed in unique ways. The hardware store provided basic materials. The bookstore created a lending library. The cafe supplied simple items for chemistry demonstrations. They've shown us that every business can support education, the Chambers of Commerce president noted. Tommy's original chemistry set held a place of honor, where one dream sparked many, the display read. But more important were the simple household items surrounding it, showing how everyday materials could teach the same principles. Because science belongs everywhere, Tommy explained. Sarah worked with educators nationwide to replicate the model. But remember, she cautioned, it's not about the building, it's about the belief that every child can be both student and teacher. Tommy and Maria proved her point daily, their natural teaching abilities inspiring others. University researchers documented the center's impact. Significant improvements in STEM understanding, they reported. But more importantly, changes in how children see themselves as capable of learning and teaching. Footage showed young students confidently explaining scientific principles to their peers. The William Santos method had gained international attention. They've stripped away artificial barriers, education experts noted, showing that scientific understanding can grow anywhere. Tommy and Maria continued their demonstrations, unaffected by fame, focused only on sharing their love of learning. Jennifer and Mrs. Santos found themselves leading seminars. How to support learning while working multiple jobs, they taught. Other parents how to create educational opportunities from everyday moments. Their practical wisdom complemented the center's academic programs. Local officials studied the impact. Truancy down, test scores up, community engagement soaring, they reported. But the most significant changes showed in children's faces. Confidence replacing uncertainty, curiosity overcoming limitation. They've taught us to see potential everywhere, the mayor admitted. The center's approach challenged traditional education models. While we debated funding for labs, Mr. Rodriguez explained, Tommy and Maria showed us that learning starts with curiosity, not equipment. Their methods became case studies in educational effectiveness. As evening approached, Tommy and Maria prepared for their regular cafe session. Tomorrow we'll show how coffee cream swirls teach about fluid dynamics, they planned. Their enthusiasm unchanged by success, their love of learning and teaching remaining pure. Sarah watched them pack their simple materials. Sometimes, she told Lisa's camera, the most powerful changes start with the smallest things: a child's dream, a teacher's belief, a community's choice to see potential instead of limitations. Outside, families lined up for the next day's sessions, proof that their movement had taken root. The chemistry set that started it all had sparked something permanent, not just a building or a program, but a transformation in how a community viewed education, opportunity, and the hidden potential in every child with a dream and determination to learn. 1 year to the day after Tommy stood in the doorway of City Toys, clutching his carefully saved money, he and Maria prepared for a special demonstration at the William Santos Center. The audience included corporate leaders, educators, and, most importantly, children from all backgrounds, each holding their own dreams of scientific discovery. Today, we're going to show you something amazing, Tommy began, while Maria set up their materials. Simple items from the kitchen and recycling bin transformed into tools of discovery. But first, he added, we want you to understand that science isn't about expensive things. It's about looking at the world and asking why and how. Sarah Chen watched from her usual spot, remembering that snowy morning when prejudice nearly crushed a child's dream. Now she saw Tommy and Maria confidently teaching others, their natural abilities having sparked a revolution in educational access. Sometimes, she told Lisa Martinez's camera, the most powerful changes start with a single act of courage. Jennifer and Mrs. Santos sat together, still in their work uniforms, but now wearing proud smiles. They showed us all what's possible, Jennifer said quietly. Not just in science, but in how we see each other's potential. Their parent support network had grown nationwide, helping other working families nurture their children's dreams. The Bauer City Toys manager who had once turned Tommy away had been invited to watch. His replacement ensured that every child felt welcome now, but his presence served as a reminder of what they'd overcome. I was wrong, he admitted publicly, about everything. Tommy's simple nod of acceptance spoke volumes about grace. Mr. Rodriguez shared the latest data. Test scores continued rising, but more importantly, student engagement had transformed. They taught us that every child can be both learner and teacher, he explained, that understanding grows best when shared. Footage showed children throughout the center confidently explaining complex concepts to each other. The chemistry set that started it all had been joined by countless simple demonstrations. But look what they teach with household items, Innovitec's CEO pointed out. They've revolutionized how we think about educational access. Tommy and Maria proved his point by turning coffee cups and string into a lesson about sound waves. Corporate policies had evolved nationwide. The William Santos model became shorthand for accessible education. But Tommy and Maria remained focused on what mattered most, helping others understand the science in everyday life. Look how sugar dissolves, they demonstrated. That's chemistry happening right in your kitchen. Local businesses had transformed into learning spaces. The cafe's Science Corner spawned similar spots across the country. Because education happens everywhere, Sarah explained, once we remove artificial barriers. Children gathered in these spaces, teaching and learning together, proving her words true. Jennifer's multiple jobs had become part of a larger conversation. Companies examined their policies, creating family-friendly schedules. So other parents can support their children's dreams, she explained. Watching Tommy teach, her exhaustion carried pride in what their struggle had sparked. Maria demonstrated electrical circuits using paper clips and batteries. Everything connects, she explained, just like people do when we share what we know. Her simple wisdom reflected the deeper truth of their movement, that learning grows through connection, not competition. The center had become a model studied worldwide. But remember, Sarah cautioned visitors, it's not about the building. It's about believing in every child's potential. Tommy and Maria proved her point daily, showing how simple materials could unlock complex understanding. Lisa's documentation captured the transformation. From viral outrage to lasting change, she reported. They didn't just create a program, they changed how we see possibility. Footage showed children from all backgrounds confidently exploring science together. Barriers of class and prejudice dissolved in shared discovery. The original viral video played on a loop in the center's entrance. To remind us, Tommy explained, that sometimes the best things start from hard moments. Beside it, Maria's first circuit demonstration showed how one child's courage could inspire another's dreams. Sarah watched her former student guide younger children through experiments. He never lost that pure love of learning, she observed. He just learned to share it more widely. The retired teacher's eyes filled with tears as she saw her lifelong vision of educational equity taking root as the anniversary celebration continued. Tommy and Maria prepared their favorite demonstration. Because science is everywhere, they explained, turning simple kitchen items into lessons about molecular structure. Their enthusiasm unchanged by fame, their joy in sharing knowledge remaining pure. Jennifer and Mrs. Santos watched their children lead the center's activities. They didn't just learn science, Mrs. Santos reflected. They learned how to lift others up. Their children's example had transformed not just education, but how a community viewed its responsibilities to its youngest dreamers. The day ended where it began, in the cafe's Science Corner. Tommy and Maria planning tomorrow's lessons, surrounded by simple materials that in their hands became keys to understanding. Because everyone deserves to learn, Tommy said simply. Everyone deserves to be seen. Sarah's final words to the gathered media captured the heart of their journey. They showed us that brilliance doesn't wait for perfect conditions, she explained. It blooms wherever we let it, whenever we choose to see potential instead of limitations. Outside, children lined up for the next day's lessons, proof that some changes, once started, grow stronger with time. As evening fell, Tommy and Maria packed up their makeshift lab. Tomorrow will show them how rainbows work, they planned, excitedly, their pure love of learning and teaching unchanged by success, their simple dream of understanding the world having sparked a movement that would continue growing, one curious child at a time.